All right, so we've got this really interesting question today about human behavior and how age plays into a hunter's skill. It's something I think we all kind of wonder about.
Yeah.
Does experience make up for, maybe not having that youthful edge anymore?
Right.
Luckily for us, some anthropologists have really dug deep into hunter-gatherer societies to kind of get at this question.
Yeah.
And what they've found is really fascinating.
Yeah, to understand how age plays a part, it's actually helpful to first think about just why men in these societies hunt in the first place. There are kind of two main theories, and they both basically come down to survival and, passing on your genes.
Okay, well, let's break those down.
Sure.
First, we've got the provisioning hypothesis, right?
Right, exactly.
Which is basically bringing home the bacon, literally, to take care of the family.
Exactly. And there's actually a lot of evidence that supports this. Like if you think about the Hadza people in Tanzania, when a man's wife is nursing, he really ups his hunting game. Yeah, he produces more food, and he even gets pretty strategic about it.
Strategic? How so?
Well, instead of going after, the big game that has to be shared with the whole group, he focuses on things like honey, which is super nutritious, but it's much easier for him to keep for his own family. So it's all about making sure his wife and baby have the calories that they need.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's not just about being a good hunter, it's about knowing what your family needs and then adapting your strategies.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And this pattern isn't only seen with the Hadza. The Aik and Hiwi, which are two hunter-gatherer groups in South America, show the same trend. Husbands, they hunt harder when their wives can't contribute as much food, like when they're pregnant or breastfeeding.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So theory number one, men hunt to provide for their families.
Yep.
Makes sense. But what about theory number two? This one is about showing off.
Right. It's called the costly signaling hypothesis. So picture this. A hunter brings back this huge kill. It's a big display of his strength and skill. And this attracts mates, and it earns him respect in the community.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like saying, hey, look at me. I'm the best hunter around, so team up with me or be my partner.
Right.
Okay. But wouldn't sharing all that meat kind of go against the idea of providing for your own family?
Yeah, that's a good question. These theories aren't actually mutually exclusive. A good hunter wants to do both,
Right.
Provide for his family and, show off a bit.
So he's playing a clever game here, balancing those two goals.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. Starting to see how this all fits together.
And when you consider age on top of this, things get even more interesting. Remember you wanted to know about when those hunting skills really peak? Well, research suggests it might not be when a hunter is in his youthful prime.
Really? I would have thought that strength and speed would be the most important.
They are, especially when you're just starting out. But over time, something else comes into play: experience. Exactly. Think about it. Years of observing animal behavior, learning the terrain, mastering all those different hunting techniques, and how weather impacts the hunt. It's a lot of knowledge, something that younger hunters just don't have yet.
So it's like comparing a rookie athlete to a seasoned veteran.
Right.
They might not be as flashy, but they get the job done.
Yeah, a great analogy.
Yeah.
And there's research to back that up. A study by Walker and colleagues looked at hunter-gatherer societies all over the world, and what they found was that peak hunting efficiency, how much food a hunter gets per hour, it doesn't actually happen until the hunter's late 30s or early 40s.
Well, that's later than I would thought.
And it stays high for 15 years.
So the physical decline is more than made up for by all that wisdom and experience, huh?
Exactly. There's also an important distinction to make between efficiency and overall productivity.
Okay, well, explain that to me.
So efficiency is about how much you get per hour, but productivity is the total amount of food a hunter brings back.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So a younger hunter might be really good in short bursts, but an older hunter can bring back more over time.
Right.
Because they've got that experience.
Exactly. They're playing the long game.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's where research on the Hadza gets really interesting.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's save that juicy bit for part two.
All right.
Got to keep our listeners on the edge of their seats, right?
Yeah, suspense is key.
So listeners, we'll be right back after a quick break to keep going with this fascinating world of hunting and experience. We'll uncover why those older hunters are so good at what they do and what lessons we can all learn from them. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about those seasoned hunters, maybe a little less pep in their step.
Right.
But they really bring back the goods thanks to all that know-how.
Yeah, they have a mental encyclopedia of hunting knowledge.
Yeah.
But how does that actually play out in their hunting? What makes them so effective?
Oh, you remember we talked about the Hadza and how they share a good chunk of what they catch?
Yeah, to kind of show off and build up their reputation, right?
Exactly. But here's something interesting. Research shows that even though they share, successful Hadza hunters make sure their families get the biggest portion. Like around 42%.
So it's not just bragging rights. They're making sure their family's taken care of.
Absolutely. They've figured out this balance between showing off and making sure their loved ones are good.
It's like 4D chess out there on the savannah.
Yeah.
They're thinking about their family, their social standing, and the long-term impact of their choices.
Exactly. And that thinking, combined with their knowledge of the hunting grounds and animal behavior, that's probably what makes them so successful in the long run.
You know, this makes me think about other areas in life where experience really matters, like a master chef, just looking at a dish and knowing what it needs.
Yeah.
Or a seasoned musician, effortlessly improvising. It's not just talent, they've got this well of experience.
That's a great point. It makes you wonder, if hunting skill relies so much on this experience and knowledge, what does that tell us about expertise in other areas?
What other skills take a lifetime to master?
Like diplomacy, navigating relationships, understanding cultures,
Right.
or think about a master craftsman who's been honing their skills for decades, passing down their knowledge.
Even parenting.
Yeah, for sure.
Years of trial and error, figuring out what works.
Absolutely. It's like there's this hidden side to expertise. It's not just but that social and emotional intelligence, to excel, but also help others.
I love that. Makes me think about all the older folks in my life.
Right.
My grandparents, mentors, even that neighbor who seems to always have the answer. Maybe there's more to their mastery than we realize.
I agree. There's so much wisdom if we just take the time to listen to those who've come before us.
Okay, so we've talked about experience, but what about the physical side? At some point, those aches and pains have to catch up, right?
That's a great question. And to answer that, we need to look back at some research. Remember the ache and Hiwi? Well, researchers Hill and Hurtado did this study tracking their foraging productivity throughout their lives.
And foraging is mostly hunting, right?
Exactly. You'd think productivity would go down with age, but what they found was really surprising.
What did they find?
They found that total foraging productivity, remember this is largely hunting, peaked between ages 45 and 50.
Wow, so even with some physical decline, the wisdom and expertise more than make up for it.
Exactly. It really challenges our ideas about aging and success. What if aging isn't a loss, but continual growth?
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Right. Imagine a society that values the elders not just for experience, but for their patience, their ability to mentor.
It would be a society that understands that success isn't a sprint, but a marathon. Sometimes the best wins come later.
Beautifully said. This idea applies to more than just hunting. It's relevant to any skill or field we're passionate about.
So what other passions or skills might benefit from this long-term dedication? What can we start today that could lead to mastery years from now?
Those are great questions. And remember, mastery isn't just about your own abilities. It's about using them to make a positive impact.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing your gifts.
I love that. Seems like we've come to a good stopping point here.
We have, from why men hunt to this idea of when hunting skills really peak.
So listeners, we're going to pause for a moment. Stay tuned, because in the final part, we'll bring it all back to your question and what we've learned about experience in hunting. Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of wrap things up here with our deep dive into hunting and experience.
Yeah, we've gone over a lot, but remember, you wanted to know when hunting skills are at their best. And it turns out the answer is kind of surprising when you think about how we usually see aging.
Right, we often think about youth being like the prime time for anything physical. But what we've learned is that for hunting, true mastery happens more in middle age.
Exactly, and it's not just about strength. It's about all that knowledge they build up, the skills they refine, those subtle cues they pick up on, and being able to change strategies after years of experience.
It's like they develop this sixth sense or something, an intuition about nature and how their prey behaves.
That's a good way to put it. They learn to really read the landscape, predict where animals will go, and make decisions based on all that knowledge they've gathered. That's not something you can just get from raw talent.
And this idea that you perform your best later in life could apply to a lot more than just hunting, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about things like medicine, leadership, even art. Experience gives you a deeper understanding, better judgment, a wisdom that's just as important as, if not more important than, youthful energy.
It's like you trade in those quick reflexes for a bigger picture view. You start making connections others miss and see problems before they even happen.
And that kind of mastery, well, it takes time. You need patience, dedication, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes just as much as your wins.
It's definitely a lifelong process, constantly growing and getting better. And the best part is there's no finish line. Always more to learn, discover, and master.
That's right. So as we finish up, I want you to think about the parts of your life where experience might be your biggest strength. What are you working on? What wisdom have you picked up along the way?
And remember, true mastery isn't just about what you achieve on your own. It's about using that knowledge and skill to make the world better. Whether you're teaching others, sharing what you know, or just living with wisdom and compassion, you can make a difference.
Well said. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing those gifts.
I love that. Well, that wraps up this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed this look into hunting and the power of experience.